Good day and welcome to SCO BRICS Insight, where we look at what's really going on in the world of the BRICS. Well, Russia goes heavy on metal. Now, as many of you are aware, Russia's been subject to sanctions by the USA and its vassal states for some 10 years now. And it's been adapting its economy to deal with all of these aggressive measures. It's doing that by implementing plans that negate them and make Russia immune to their effects, and it's also building up its sovereignty and self-sufficiency across all aspects of its industrial economy. Now, recently, the Russian government has improved its updated strategy for the development of the strategic metals and mineral resource base through until 2050. Now, the primary objective is to enhance the processing and utilisation of the abundant raw materials base within the country and to ensure the supply and security as well as the sovereignty of the Russian industrial base in all aspects of metals and additives that contribute to a successful and profitable metallurgical sector. Now, experts highlight the importance of developing the domestic deposits because of potential trade wars. Furthermore, rare earth metals, as everybody is aware, are essential for production of high-tech products from phones, computers, MRI machines, solar panels, batteries, etc., and so many other products that are used today that are involved in technology. Now, Russia's sufficient levels of resources of these commodities, so they plan to carry out further exploration to make sure that they have the room for expansion and ensure the country's self-sufficiency and be independent in the supply chain of these minerals. The updated strategy looks at two potential scenarios. The baseline scenarios is the current reserves and production will remain much the same, but the main scenario, which is the one that they're targeting, looks at a rapid expansion of the mineral resources base, and that really is essential for the execution of the high-tech industrial projects that are planned. Now, before I continue, I'd like to make an appeal. If you like and enjoy my videos, you can help me fund the channel and my website SCO BRICS Insight to further develop it, and you can do this by making a small donation, which is done by clicking on the thanks button at the bottom of the video screen. Now, everybody who donates does get a personal thank you from me, and I'm thanking you all now in advance. Now, further geological exploration is a priority. The focus is really on identifying the scarce types of strategic raw materials, and these include manganese, uranium, chromium, titanium, and tungsten. It's also to crucially expeditiously license these deposits and stimulate their development with government grants. Now, the Russian Prime Minister Mikhail Mishustin has highlighted the importance of focusing on the geological exploration efforts in the search for rare earth metals and their extraction. He also stated that meeting the demand for these materials is obviously going to increase significantly in line with the growth rates forecast for not just the military industrial complex, but the nuclear sector, the chemical industry, and the machine tools, as well as other key industries. Now, there's so much going on that it's in terms of solid minerals, but Russia can say with pretty much confidence that the subsoil of Russia is fully capable of meeting the industry's needs for materials such as coal, iron ore, copper, nickel, cobalt, molybdenum, as well as platinum group metals, and obviously Russia is pretty big in the gold and silver, as well as apatite ores and potassium salts. At the current rate of extraction, the reserves of listed materials are going to last at least 30 to 40 years, and that's just the ones that they've discovered, and that's according to the Ministry of Natural Resources. Now, at the Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok, the Russian President Vladimir Putin stated that Russia is the only country in the world with the capability to fully provide itself with the natural resources that it needs. Now, those who've been to and understand Russia know this is true, and it's one of the reasons why the USA is so hostile towards Russia. Like back in the 90s, it would like to control the Russian economy and have all these natural resources for themselves. And that's why they're seriously annoyed that they're currently dependent on Russia for enriched uranium, which is an area that Rosatom, the Russian company, dominates, and it's a major supplier to the rest of the world. I mean, Putin accurately says that Russia boasts a wide variety of mineral deposits, and it's not just oil, gas, coal and metal ores, but it's also the non-metallic technical raw materials as well. I mean, these are spread across an impressive 17 million square kilometres. But there is a discrepancy in the data coming out between what Russia says it has and what certain other organisations, including the World Bank, tend to say that there is available. But based on the current rate of extraction, the provision of the reserves in the listed mine are certainly going to last decades, according to calculations by the Ministry of Natural Resources. Now, obviously, the main issue here is reducing Russia's dependence on any foreign supplies of raw materials. I mean, we've seen from the effects of sanctions that that's got to be a matter of urgency. I mean, according to Olga Epanova, who's a member of the Federation Council on Food Policy and Nature Management, she says that this goal is achievable and done in an environmentally friendly way. I mean, but you have to remember that just a few years ago, the extraction of many minerals was considered uneconomic, and that was with the deposits. But, however, when you're dependent on imports, that's much more expensive and much more economical. So the strategy now is to develop technologies and equipment which will work because the state becomes the main customer for these projects, and they will share the burden in the same way as investing in education. She also emphasised that the new strategy plays well with the regions. It makes job creation, it forges new investor connections, and it also puts infrastructure in places that it didn't exist before. I mean, Russia's already pretty much used up its extractable reserves from the traditional ores, and they've been depleted. So it's now a responsibility of the state to ensure that Russia's technological sovereignty and production of these metals. I mean, you only have to look at China, for example. Their pricing of rare earth metals is effectively done by the government, and they use quotas and indirect subsidies to the domestic producers to make them profitable. I mean, that's despite its WTO membership. It continues to use this membership. So it's necessary to look and develop these complex and isolated deposits over a period of maybe 10 to 30 years. And strategy will emphasise on the Arctic and the Far East. Well, that's where most of these deposits are. They're all in hard to find and hard to develop places, but Russia now has the technology and the ability to actually do that. And it's shown over the last 10 years that they can develop it. And they've certainly over the last 5 years, they've found 225 different deposits and another 625 different minerals have been discovered. I mean, the significance of the rare earth element sector cannot be overemphasized. I mean, any supply disruption from China, etc., will directly affect the Russian industrial base, and Russia needs to make sure that that is addressed immediately. I mean, according to the International Energy Agency World Critical Minerals Outlook, it's proposed innovative methodology for looking at the risks along with each mineral and its dimensions. I mean, particularly supply disruptions, geopolitical, environmental and social government risks. Now, the concentration of rare earth metals obviously needs to be focused on, but given the role that they actually play in the production of liquid crystal displays, MRI machines, solar panels and other high value technology projects. I mean, if there's a full trade war breaks out between blocs of countries, then supplies of critical metals can be used as an economic weapon, and that would seriously affect industrial production in states that are dependent on them. So consequently, this challenge needs to be addressed, And it's not about the lack of reserves, but it's the lack of the extraction and processing of these ores. And that really needs to be focused on. And I think that's where companies like Rosatom and Rostec are going to look at these technological challenges. I mean, private investors are only going to invest in rare earths and enrichment technology if it's economically efficient. And that means that they need the consumption volumes, but also they need investment capital from the Russian government to make sure that the Chinese suppliers who have the dominant position are not held to ransom Russian manufacturers who need these particular metals. And if you look at the reduction in projected hydrocarbon consumption, the growing demand for these rare earth metals is going to expand by 6 to 7-fold. So that makes an ideal environment for the expansion of Russia's rare earth metals development and potential export markets. I mean, you've also got to consider the large-scale projects for the existing technologies that are not being implemented. The fact that Russia isn't protecting its manufacturers enough. I mean, manganese is one of the most important non-ferrous metals, yet it's mined in Russia in quantities that are minimal, and it's just not sufficient for the market. So that's a major thing that I mean, it's an alloying element that's critical for the production of cast iron and steel. So, and Russia being a major producer, it really needs to address that. I mean, it's been importing the majority of its manganese ferroalloys from the Ukraine, but obviously the situation there means it's now shifted to sourcing to South Africa and Gabon. Now, the manganese deposits in Russia, such as the Chukovskoy, Tomtor, have ores with a very low content, but the technology now exists to make that workable, and it just needs the investment into the energy infrastructure and the government money to make that happen. I mean, getting rid of the impurities doesn't require technology, and Russia now has those, and it should be done with great speed. I mean, according to Alexander Malacharov, who's a professor of economics, the issues of poor ore quality and underdeveloped technology are just typical of scarce resources in other areas, and they've managed to overcome them, like the Chinese. So these solutions just need investment of time, resources, and labour. So it's unlikely that any significant breakthroughs are going to be made. It just needs the scarce raw materials need to be replaced, and the government has to intervene. I mean, according to Pavel Savanchiev, who's an analyst of processes at a Russian university, global industry is going to require 7 billion tons of metal by 2050. And the demand for lithium and nickel for batteries is just at the beginning of the cycle. I mean, steel, copper, aluminium and other metals are also going to be required in vast quantities. And Russia does have the level of reserves that will allow its production volume to be several times greater than it currently has. I mean, the mining industry around the world is going to really require investment, but particularly Russia. And that's why the government needs to act now. And that's why Russia and its plan is going to give it a significant competitive advantage according to other countries. I mean, the majority of rare earth metals are politically unstable regions, so it's difficult to get sustainable investment. So Russia really needs to commit to capital investment in its mining industry and its supply chains, and it's got to be done now. So I think the strategy of the government is correct, and it's looking at it now before the problems arise. And the domestic industrial complex is looking for the investment, and it will pay off in the future, and there will be no risk to Russia for the national security of its industrial base. So the time for action is now. And if Russia does initiate these projects, it will restore the efficient extraction of processing from the ground up and rebuild the production chains that were actually destroyed because they did exist in the Soviet era. And all they need to do is to start replicating that and stop thinking of in simple profit and loss terms, but look upon it as a government investment in the future that will then be returned in the form of tax revenues, etc. So it's all looking quite good. Now let's see what happens. I'll keep you updated. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. And if you enjoyed this video, you can help me fund the channel and this website by clicking on the thanks button. Thank you. Take care.